everyone, welcome back to Muppin Sewing Emporium. How are you doing today? It is Friday. That means it is time for our show. I hope you are doing wonderfully well. I am. We're having a great day today. We're doing. Let's see. Got to do a little share here to a video. Da, 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 da. Video is works, but it doesn't work. And then you're like, hey, this technology stuff, I tell you, welcome back. We're here. I've got Mr. Spooky. I've got all kinds of fun stuff going on. So let's see here. And so today, my friends, Friday, and this week we have a special on yardage on our website. So if you have not yet visited our website, there goes the URL, as the kids say. And I'm going to drop this into the comments as well. Let me just say that we're doing 30% off all of the yardage on the website. And the yardage would be anything on the website where we're selling the individual yards. And if you want more than one yard, of those items, you just need to put in like multiples, right? So if you want 2 yards, you put 2. If you want 3, you put 3, and we will cut them in continuous yards for you. Or you can come into the shop and buy your little heart's content out of those bolts, because we need to make room. We have new fabric coming in and no place to put it in our tiny, tiny little store. So you have to help me, help you, help us, and help you. 30% off the bolted goods, bolt fabric in the store. So you want to run on over and get that and grab that up. I also want to remind you that if you are coming to Paducah, especially for the quilt show, I do have classes, and 2 of them still have room in them for you to take a class from me during quilt week. So that is also very exciting. So we're going to talk about the Yo Yos, okay? And we talked about this last week. We were making yo-yos last week, and we were using our yo-yo makers. Now you can also get these from our website, and this piece is not yet finished and it needs more. So of course I will go through the demo for you again. But in looking at this, I'm like getting so excited because this is for our textured tuffet. So I am currently doing this textured tuffet, and this one is done by Tuffet Source, tuffetsource.com. So there are these panels that are basically like flip and sew. So they're like foundation panels, and these are what we're building our textured sections onto. So I'm very excited because once this one is finished, that means there are only 2 more left to do. And it's weird because now they're going really fast. So I'm just going to bring the screen. Oh, you can see this here is the stuff you don't see on camera. But this, my friends, is uh is the piece that we're talking about. So I'm just going to make sure that this went out onto the internet. Okay, it did. um I have been having so much trouble with this camera right here, that camera right there, and it has been giving me so much trouble. Okay, so here's the big reveal. Ta-da! This is what we have done so far. Now, as you can see, I've just been pinning them on onto the background here. They're not sewn down, so we're still getting to that point. But we've got this is the chunk of fabric that I have been slowly eating away here, like chunks of cheese. Um, oh my gosh! Ooh, Marion. Just an FYI, there's a new show on Paramount called LA Frock Stars, called What We Wore. I might be really interested. I am super interested in that. Thank you, Marion. That is a fantastic tip, and I am excited. Oh, that I'm gonna have to watch that. Now, Charlie and I have got him to agree to watch the new look, which is about the fashion in like the early 50s, and it's a show that's about um Coco Chanel and Christian Dior. And so, is it Christian Dior? I think that's his name. Anyway, that's the show. And so, as you can see, I just clapped this little bad boy on here, and we're just gonna take the scissors, go right around, and we're cutting that circle out. So that show, I've convinced Charlie to watch with me. Now, normally he's not excited about that kind of stuff. So, oh right, it's during World War II. I thought it was after. But you're right. I think it is I think it is set during World War II. Now, these are the two. We got three different sizes I'm working with here, and as you can see, I've manipulated a couple of them into further shapes. And so, and then there are lines on here for, you know, where the edge of the fabric is, and I know that my seam allowance is going to be 3/4 of an inch, so I am staying out of that area for when I put this together. So Marion says Charlie will love it if he likes history. You know, Charlie has he's kind of this is what I love about him. He's such an interesting dude. But he is not necessarily a fan of history shows, because he says like that's already happened, and he likes fantasy shows, and he likes sci-fi, because that's stuff that hasn't happened. So in some cases, some of the shows we watch, he's not a fan of that. Marion wants to ask, are we putting butterflies on here or no? I am not. And so there's a reason for that. So the butterfly yo-yo maker is no longer available. And what I wanted to do was to use only the yo-yo makers that are still currently being made. And so that's why I'm not putting other yo-yo shapes on here. Now, I could turn one of these into a butterfly. And that's why when I did these flower ones, I did them specifically so that it was made out of the ones you can currently get. I agree, Marion. I wish they would not have canceled or stopped making those other ones. Those ones are particularly nice. I do love those. So, okay. So, I've got these two started, and I don't really think. Now, here's where, right here, you can see this little mark. That is the part of the tuffet that gets turned under. So this area here is going under the, like on the bottom of the tuffet. So we don't need to do anything past really this point. So we have, how wide did I say that this was? I think it's like 9 inches wide. And so I'm really just trying to cover this area, but then only up to here. So you have to remember these shrink down by about half. And so this circle here that's raised on the back, that is how big the pieces are. And so what I do is I'm able to sort of get a sense of what can fit in the space that's left that won't it won't be too much. So there's that. I do also have the jumbo yo-yo maker, and while technically this one is still being made, I haven't quite decided if I'm going to put another one of these on here. I mean, it is huge and it would take up a lot of space. It would mean I wouldn't have to make as many of these left. I could make fewer and just get away with. So I might do that. I do have enough room on the piece that I'm cutting out to do that with. So maybe that's what we'll do today. So that's what's going on. So we're getting ready to do that. And then I am in the process of writing my next technique book. And today I got a lovely message from the Victoria and Albert Museum. And I had written to them asking them a bunch of questions about a garment that's in their collection. And I was very happy to get a very nice reply today. And so that will help my research for the book. So if you've never seen our first book, which is about smocking, there's a huge section in the front of that book about how smocking came about and how Canadian smocking in particular is how it came about. And so my books are full of historical research on these techniques, and I very much wanted to make sure that I could find some more information. And I got a really lovely reply from the Fashion Before the 1800s curator. So that was pretty exciting. And so, yeah, so if you send them an email and you think, oh gosh, I wonder if anybody's going to write back, and they did. So that's really cool. All right. So for this one, now, yes, I do have thread left on this particular needle, and I do not want to use this because this, we've already gone through the fabric a lot with this piece of thread, and I can't trust it, right? Because what if I start pulling on this and it breaks halfway through? So the whole goal here is to take this one and throw it in the trash. Yes, they're still making thread. Yes, they will make more, and you can still get some. So that's the one thing I always tell my students is don't worry, you can always get more thread. Um, and they always kind of giggle about it, but it's true. When we're creatures of, I don't know where we picked it up from, or who passed it on to us, that you can take a couple more stitches with that thread and you can continue to sew with that piece. And there comes a point at which you know you're you're gonna create you're gonna have a problem with that thread. And I just say it's better to give yourself a new piece of thread and not have to deal with that hassle. So there's that. Okay. So I always try to pick like this spot here as my starting point, because I want to be able to find that starting point again. And I'm going to go into the fabric a couple of times at that first spot. Now, if you're making a yo-yo by hand and not using one of these tools, your yo-yo should start off the exact same way. You should put that first stitch there and go back and forth in that same spot over a couple of times, because you need that anchor point on which to pull. Now, if you don't do the stay stitch there, that's that, little secondary stitch that I did. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is your needle is going to go, your knot is going to pop out the back. And I've done so many of these at this point that I just know that I'm going to put my thread through, and that it's going to get to that knot, and you're going to pull, and that knot is just going to go boop, 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 boop. Like I've had it happen. And then all you're doing is sewing your project over again. And, nobody wants to sew. Once you've done the round, you don't want to go back. So, you kind of want to just do it. Okay. So somebody has a question. Are you using a single thread? Yes. And what type of thread do I recommend? Well, the thread I am using is a 50 weight thread. And I always, and this is my normal recommendation, I always match my thread content to the fabric I am using. So if I am using a cotton fabric, I'm using a cotton thread. Now that only changes with the quilting. If you want to have like shiny, glittery quilting, you can change out to polyester. But typically, even my quilting, I match the thread to the fiber content that I am sewing with. And that is always just my go-to, right? Because what I don't want is to use a polyester thread here and then have the fabric deteriorate at a different rate than the thread. And we're putting a lot of pressure on this thread, right? We're telling it to pull and scrunch and tuck and all of that. And we want that to stay in there as long as we can. And so that's going to be a really important part of this, is to make sure that it stays. So if we, and I always use a single length, because a single length should be strong enough to do the work. Now, I will also say that this is where new thread comes into play, because, and this is not just me trying to get you to buy more thread out in the world. Your thread does age. In where you store it and how you store it matters. So if you store your thread in the sun, or if you store your thread near a heat grate or a heating vent. What's happening is that the temperature changes and all of that is causing this thread to become dry and brittle and sun bleached. And so those are things that affect the efficacy of your thread. I know that's a real long word, efficacy. But if your thread is going to perform, so if you have a thread and you put it in your machine and you're sewing and it's breaking all the time and you're like, I just opened this spool or whatever, it could be the thread. Okay, I'm not saying it can't be, but it could be the thread, because where you store it and how you keep it, that all that matters. So there's that. And I know that people don't think about, like, keeping they want to have all their threads out and they want it to be all pretty all the time. And really the best place for your thread is in a cabinet, and or in drawers, where they can stay dust free, they can stay somewhat regulated, and so that's just my recommendation. So your mileage may vary, but I hear people, oh, I got all these beautiful spools of thread and I got them off of eBay or whatever, and I don't know about that. People bring me sewing boxes all the time and they've got grandma's thread in there, and I usually just, unless it's a wooden spool and it's just pretty to look at, I put that in a jar, but I don't ever use it. Okay, so we're going past, so here's our start point. So we're going into that same start point again, and now we can take the tool apart and we can pop this off. You're just gonna just peel it off. This is such a great tool. I love these yo-yo makers. And then we're going to pull, and we're going to pull. This is where your fabric, your thread is doing the work, and it's getting abraded as it's getting pulled through here. But we're also going to try to make this come very, very close, very, we're trying to close the hole as much as we can. Now, I can tell you that there's a lot of people who are like, I can't get it all the way shut. And, a lot of that comes down to the type of stitches that you take around the end here. Okay, so I'm just going into the fabric. I've got it pulled really tight, going into that fabric right there, and that little stitch should hold it temporarily while I rethread my thread for the millionth time. And I'm going to take a couple stay stitches here, because I don't want any knots to come out. And these are like tailor tacks. They're just, stay stitches through a couple of layers there, and then a knot. Just a standard old knot. Now I am going to try to bury that knot a little bit better. So I usually just kind of back towards the fabric like that. And then I'm going to trim, and then it's like it's invisible and it never happened. Now, this is where you get to zhuzh, and we want this to be as circular as possible. And we can just take all of the little cartridge pleats here in the middle and kind of fluff them out. I do want to try to aim that center to be more central, and that really looks good. So, and that hits like just where I need it to. Look at how much room that takes up. I don't have to do all that extra sewing. So we're going to find the pins, We're going to pin that little guy in place. So the yo-yo makers are available on our website. We're doing 30% off all yardage on our website right now. If you are close by, you can come in tomorrow. Look, tomorrow's the last day of that 30% off sale. So anything on the website that's noted as yardage, you're going to put in a coupon code for that. And I will put that coupon code here on the screen. Let me drop that in there. Spring 24 is the coupon code. And that coupon code is good for 30% off our website for yardage, only yardage, because we're trying to make room. We have new fabric coming in, but if you've ever seen a picture of our store, it's a tiny little store. It's tiny. And so we have a line that's coming in. It's 21 bolts. And I'm like, where is this going to go, Charlie? We don't have room. So we've got to clear out some of the yardage on the bolts and be a bolt killer. Come in and be a bolt killer and clear out the fabric off the bolt, 30% off. Okay, so we have, as you can see, with pin. I just love. Can I just tell you how much I love how this looks. It's so cool. Now, obviously, the blue pins, they're gonna go away, but we've got so many cool. I mean, it's really, really coming together. So we just have this little strip here that needs to be filled in, and then this little section here. And remember, that line there is where we're trying to get to, because this area down folds under the tuffet. So it's the part that I don't really need to decorate the bottom of the tuffet. Does that make sense? Okay, so we do have this thread on this needle that was used in the jumbo, and I think I can get like one more pass out of it on the on one of these two pieces. So we'll do this little one first, because I do need to remake or make a small star shape or flower shape out of this size. I have one in the other sizes, and I don't like the one that came out. I want to redo it. Well, I don't want to redo it. June! Yes! Can't wait to see you. That's very exciting. Tomorrow, the weather downtown is supposed to be much nicer than it was today. And can I just say, what happened to our weather? We had like 78 degrees here or something. It was like almost 77, 78 degrees. What happened? All of the trees are blooming, and the daffodils are up, and it's March 1st. It's March 1st. I can't believe that it has basically we've gotten this like weird false spring going on. And I mean, I'm from the Midwest, so I'm used to that, but not 40 or 70 degrees in February. That is a new one. So I don't know who ordered this cold weather, but I would like you to send it back. I'm really kind of over the cold weather, and that little taste of spring made me really really want a spring weather back. So all right, so we've got our piece, and we're just going to peel this off. And I'm going to give this a good tug, and again, we're trying to make sure that all those there go towards the center. Follow the light, Carol Ann. All right, so there we go. Uh, I want that warm weather, but it was weird. And it has been acting like it made the birds started nesting and like they're all freaked out, because now they're like, hey man, it's cold. So who knows what's going on with that crazy weather, but I don't like what that may do to our festival, our dogwood festival here. Because if the trees bud too early, then what? So yeah, I agree, Mary. Okay, so we've got this. This is a little bitty yo-yo, so you can see how extra tiny it is. And what I need to do is go over the edge and through the middle and over the edge. And what that's going to do is it's going to create an indentation. And so that's what we're trying to get this to do, but we're going to try to do this in places where I can get 5 sort of even pieces. So I'm going to move the background out of the way so that you guys can see better. And let's get like that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the string here, and I'm going to go over the edge, and I'm going to try to find some like in between two of the little channels there, and that's going to help pull that down. Mary says we had bugs too. Yeah, the bugs are out already, and it's gross, and I would like that to go away. Okay, so there's the first indentation. Now you can play with that. You can use your fingers to kind of I mean, if you want the heart shape, if you don't have the heart shape yo-yo maker, you can pinch the bottom here, and that will make the heart shape. So that's one of the ways to do the heart shape. I have gone through, and now I'm going to find the next channel, and we have to make them. So this is a 5-pointed petal flower. So we need the piece to be broken up into 5 sections. You're going to have to eyeball it because, of course, we don't really have. I mean, and flowers in nature are not. They're not perfect either. Like some of them are a little misshapen. So there we've got the first petal formed. And we're going to go through. Now, it doesn't, like, with a string this long, you notice I'm not sort of aiming it yet. Marion, I heard the cicadas are coming back, and I've lived through several of those, and then I went to Baltimore and lived through those over there. They actually, so there are multiple broods that are emerging this year, from what I understand. So, yeah, they're kind of gross. A friend of mine doesn't like their red eyes. She's really like not a fan of the cicada as a it just freaks her out. It's not a good looking bug. Not that I think most bugs are great looking, but there you go. Okay, so here is where I got the little loop, and I can sort of aim this into places while I have this kind of going. And it looks like it's got my thread locked in there. There we go. So as you can see, I'm going to pull, and we just have, and it looks pretty even. I think that looks pretty even. I just need to do one more, and we are good to go with this little guy. And here's where, the thread is laying there on the top, and we're just going to take our finger and move it to where we want it to be. So if it's a little too left or right, you don't think it's going to do that right in the center. I mean, that came out pretty cute. So now here on the back, I'm just going to take a couple of stay stitches, those little tailor tacks, and then a knot. Not that it should come out, but you never know. And then we're going to take our scissors, give that a little trim, and voila. And that, I think that turned out better than the last one that I did. So, and then I don't think I'm going to replace it. I think I'm just going to use it in addition to. So if we bring all of this back, this was the one I wasn't happy with. This one is a little better. And so, yeah, I mean, you kind of stick them wherever they fit. And then what I've been doing is taking a pin and just sort of pinning it into place. And that helps me determine how much additional room I need to cover up. So, right here, I would say probably 3 or 4 on this side, and like maybe 2 to 3 on that side, and then this is full. But what I wanted to do was to show you, because again, I seem to be going pretty quickly with these now. I can tell you that the first 2 panels took me weeks to do, and then now I'm like rocking and rolling, like they're going so fast. Mary says it looks amazing. Thank you. I feel very happy with the results. So, okay. So I'm going to sew this one down. Now, there's a couple of different ways that people sew yo-yos down. I actually applique them down. Some people want to just tack it in the center, and they like that it's like free floating and, moves around. The rest of the panels, the other panels in this tuffet, do not have sort of flappy material on it. And so I don't really want this to be flappy either. So we're going to applique it down. And so I'm just going to start with a fresh piece of thread. Again, as I have said in the past, okay, you do not want yards and yards. You just want from your sort of your hand to your interior of your elbow, and that is plenty of thread. If you need to get another piece of thread, guess what? You can get another piece of thread. But if you start using like these really long pieces and you're like stabbing your neighbor because you're doing one of these, you're sewing with like your arm out like this. No one sews like that. No one sews like this, okay? Like it's just not, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a really long piece of thread that's going to knot somewhere in the middle, and then you're going to be mad about it. So I'm just saying. Okay. Apparently now my camera is not on, has not caught up. So we gotta wait for the camera to catch up. There it is. Okay. So here we are. All right. We're gonna sew this one down. Now, this is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from the back. So I'm going to actually start by coming up from the back so that my knot is on the back. Like that. And I'm just going to like come right into the edge of the yo-yo. And we're just, I'm trying to use the edge of the yo-yo as my guide as to where to take my next stitch. And at this point, I can remove my pin because I don't need that. It should stay on for the most part. And I'm just appliquing this on the edge. Now, the number of stitches you use don't really matter. You know, I know people who their applique stitches are so tiny it looks like it's just part of the fabric. I'm not that fussy with these. I do want to do more than just tack it though. So and very soon here I'm gonna have to flip the piece the other direction so I can see my stitches on the other end. So I mean that's how it will be attached, is essentially. Now in this layout, when I was trying to think about how I wanted to do this, I started to think that I wanted these yo-yo pieces to touch the next piece, but they don't have to be like jammed up on top of one another. So that's the goal there. And I do like that I can keep all my other pieces sort of pinned in place while I work on one at a time. So that's good. And then I'll be able to sort of work here from like the top down. When I get to the flower one, that's where it will get kind of interesting because you end up having to applique the individual petals down. But it's not hard, it's just a lot more stitching. This is just a circle. And it's pretty even. It's not you know, the yo-yo maker itself makes it very even. So I don't have to do like I don't have to pre-draw a circle on here and then do it. You know, I don't have to get that fussy. But I do want to put the piece in a spot where I cannot stick my get stuck with the other pins in this piece of fabric. So there is that. And because this is a small piece of fabric that I'm sewing this onto, I don't have to worry about trying to sew it from like odd directions. I can just move the whole piece. So there's that. So it is, it goes pretty quick. So not only is the making of the yo-yos fast, but this is pretty straightforward. And because, you know, your knot and everything is on the back of the fabric, it just makes like sewing down the yo-yo pretty easy. So if you are doing a quilt that has this texture on it and you're giving this to a little kid or a baby, you're going to want to make sure that you do this process to the back, sew the yo-yo completely down, because if you just tack it in the middle and the yo-yo is tiny, um, you know, it can get pulled off of the quilt. So that's my PSA for making this as a like a texture quilt for like kids or anyone with sensory issues. Um, I made quite a few Alzheimer's quilts in the past, and while these are great textures and they just like to play with it, if you don't sew it down, they could pull it off and it could end up in their mouth, and you don't want that. So there's that. And then yeah, so I like this extra security of knowing that it's completely sewn down. The other thing I noticed is that, usually my quilts, I have a few quilts in the shop, and inevitably people want to touch this stuff. And they're always like, if it's sticking out, they are always like pulling on it. And it's like, yeah. So I don't mind usually because, I mean, heck, I want to touch this quilt. But it can be one of those, if you're like that kind of person that doesn't want your people touching your things, um, this is a hard, these techniques are hard to resist. Okay, so you've got your stitches there on the back. I've got some kind of fuzz. And I'm just going to, again, take a knot. And I will also, just on the interior here of the circle, take a couple of stay stitches that I always just do for insurance, as I call it, insurance purposes. um, and so now we have one yo-yo down, and you can see just how it acts a little differently. Here you get more of that shadow and that lip, and here you don't have it. It's more attached to the back. So I kind of like how that looks. And so, it's just a matter of going through here, tacking these down individually, which I do a lot of this stuff in front of the television. We that's how I relax, is we finish work, we go home, we watch TV, and then I sew. And then we get back up the next day and do it all again. So that's kind of where I'm at with the project, but I really do like it. I mean, it's just really cool. And then with the other piece from last week, let me get it out here. It's under all this stuff. There. Well, here's all the other ones. Ugh. I'm trying not to dump the fabric all over the floor. The floor in here really needs to be mopped. I found that out the other day when I was in here. I was like, the floor really needs to be mopped. So, okay. So, let me turn on the other camera. And we've got this one with these little flowers. We've got the rouleau. So if you remember the rouleau piece and how I said it's sort of like organic, where these are making like very structured, pleats and gathers and things like that. They're very linear, these other ones. And this one, the rouleau piece from a couple of weeks ago, was a little more kind of freeform. It's a little more organic. And I thought that this would be a good sort of companion piece. So, Marion, no, these are not. I will say that the book I'm working on right now is the Gathers book. And the Gathers book will have more techniques uh, like these, more like this. And then this technique will also be in the new book, this one here. Because the book is very that smocking book is really focused on smocking, and these pieces, these are this is gathers, these are gathers, this is, I don't know what book this will be in, the rouleau, but you can watch the video that we did a couple of weeks ago on this. It's all on there. And then the other ones are pleats. So we've got pleats, we've got gathers, we've got smocking. And then the next two, I know for sure one of them will be ruching. And so is the new book called Gather. So the first book is called Smock It To Me. And I have not yet decided on the funny pun that I'm going to put as the name of the gathering book. I have a couple of good ideas, like strong candidates for the gathering book title, but I have not finished. I haven't done that yet, and the writing is happening now. So I'm writing it now, and then once I'm done writing, then I will go and do all of the samples for that book, which I know sounds like a lot. It's not really. It'll probably take like a week to do all the samples, and then we go to layout, and then the layout will take probably another couple weeks. It's supposed to be out by this summer, and we're on track for that. So I love your smocking book. I love my smocking book too. I love the history of things, and so it's got a lot of history in it. And I did talk to the Victoria and Albert Museum curator today, and she gave me some really good info for the next book. So the next book's going to be really awesome. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff in that one. And then and so yeah, and these I have been just put all of these into my little, I have a little zip bag for that. And then I do also have my my sewing kit. Now I pretty much have been living out of this sewing kit since my sewing room is not yet finished upstairs. My sewing room is one of the rooms that is being renovated, and it is it's not finished, and all of my stuff is still in storage. So I am kind of going stir crazy not having my things, but I have been teaching myself to live out of this this container. And I forget the name of this pattern. I will look up this pattern for you because I just love this little sewing kit. It's so convenient. And it's got 3 zippy pouches, and then it's got a lot of other just areas in it, and those areas, because of the way things roll up, things kind of just get kind of tucked in there, and then they don't really fall out, which is great. And so I've got my like pens area. I mean, I kind of do have a whole store, but I mean, that's for you guys. I can't keep taking stuff off the counter or off the wall, and then what will I have left to sell you? So there's that. And then so I've got like my my glue thing, and this is a really handy little thing. These are little girls hair bands. and they make really good uh like things for bobbins. So you don't need a lot of thread. You can just wind the thread you're going to use onto a bobbin and just throw that in your bag. I've got a couple EPP pieces. I got a hair tie. That's always an important thing. Few EPP pieces in here that didn't make it into the final project. I got like a ruler. Here's where those spools, these, we sell these in the store. I love those, right? I know. Um, and then these are the spool huggers, and this is what I use them for. The spool huggers, they keep your thread from unwinding while it's in here. And then you've got your rulers and stuff. I got a ruler that fits in there. And then this area here for all my needles that I'm using. And then these zip pouches are great because I've got scissors, I've got a pen that has a thimble on it. I've got, I think this is the one that's got my, these are all my expensive thimbles. So this, I was telling you guys a couple weeks ago about that device that keeps when I'm sewing, it keeps my fingers straight. This is that thing. It stays in here. And then I do have my super fancy needle, or my super fancy thimble. I couldn't think of the word. And then I have this one as well. And so these are both silver. This one, this is a Roxanne thimble, but this is a Roxanne symbol. This Roxanne thimble, I want to say, is like 20 years old. I've had this forever. And then this one is silver. It's like an old tailor's thimble, where it's got no top. So I specifically wanted that, these two types of thimbles. And it depends on what I'm working on, which thimble I use. And then I also have my needle pullers. I've got a couple different sets of those. I got clips. So this is where the expensive thimbles live. I think each one of those was like $100. And then I got a spare one. I got a random needle puller in here too. Should throw those all together. This is about as organized as it gets. And then what I normally do too is I have to stop myself from, like, as I'm sewing somewhere, I will throw the thread ends in here. So then, like, every once in a while I got to clean it out, and you get little bits like that. But I've been better about that because I hate opening it up and then not being able to get at all my stuff. And what I like about this pattern is that it really opens up. Like, you can get at everything. So it's just a neat pattern. And I forget where I got it. And and it's got fish on it. Charlotte's asking, have I ever used pre-wound bobbins? Yes. And I do like them for small things like this. Like these little pre-wounds. You can get these different in lots of different colors. I prefer pre-wound bobbins that have the same fiber content I'm going to use in my quilt. So if I'm going to do pre-wounds, I'm going to make sure that my pre-wound is like this. I think is like an 80 weight, and it's a polyester, and I can just feel it. This I would just use if I was in an emergency. The other ones, if I can buy them and they're the same weight as the thread I normally sew with, which is 50 weight, I will use it. So, but that's my thing about pre-wounds. And then I have been trying to make sure all the needles go in the same direction in here, because what will happen is I'll start, going to reach for one and it'll get me. so that's my sewing kit. All of these, it's missing a couple things. I mean, I have needles and stuff in there. I have pins in there. This container of pins lives in there. Some of these will live in there while I'm sewing with them. Otherwise, they go in the other bag. I have a bag of these just for that. So, I was just saying the other day to Charlie, I was like, I really want to get these bags back in because I love them. And we did so well selling these. As you can see, I have multiples of some sizes because sometimes I need more than one. And yeah, so anyway, that's what we have for you today. It's already 8:00. I can't believe it. My friends, don't forget 30% off Bolt Fabric. Online, you're going to go to the website and you're going to put in coupon code SPRING24. And this is all to make room because we have a lot of fabric coming in and we need to make some space. We are going to get stacked out to the gills here really soon for Quilt Week, and we need that space. So help a girl out. If you're going to shop online, go here, go to the fabric page. I even have a new page for all the yardage, and that's where you're going to use that Spring 24 coupon code. Otherwise, come on into the shop and clean it out. 30% off. So you can come by tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day of the sale. So, but my friends, it's been lovely to spend my Friday night with you again. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, and I will see all of you